They sandwiched me speaking in between two songs I had to play, and I may be out of breath a little bit. But Beegie loved people. She loved animals. She loved stories. She loved life. But most of all, she loved music. And she was an encyclopedia of the great American songbook. She knew all the great songs, the lyrics, the composers, what show or movie it was from, when it was written, and if appropriate, probably who the main character actors were in the movie. She knew the right chord changes and maybe a few good options. And she knew what the song was about. And you could hear it in her playing. By the time I moved to Nashville in 1974, she was a pretty well-established icon in the music business. And she was in the house bands of the Ralph Emery Show and the Noon Show. She was an A-list call for hundreds of record sessions and jingles and TV shows. And I was lucky enough to get to know her and play with her in my early years in Nashville. And I was lucky to still be playing with her many years later. Her talent was enormous. She heard things that mere mortals couldn't. Anyone who played or sang with her was always amazed by how she could make everyone else sound better. Everybody wanted her in their bands. She was a key player in so many important musical groups in Nashville's growing years. The Carl Garvin Band, Orchestra 12, a fusion band called Sweet Thunder, and another one called 2002. And then there was the Adair Solee Quartet, with which was Beegie, her husband Billy, the great Morris Palmer on drums, and myself. And that morphed into the part-time, big-time bebop co-op, which was together for several years, playing back in the days when JC's was active in Green Hills. And if I failed to mention some of the more significant bands that she was with, and there were a lot of them, I apologize. I just wanted to touch on a few. But anyway, I relate a story that she used to tell, courtesy of her friend Monica. And before graduating from college, Beegie was working in Printer's Alley, which at that time was the only nightlife in Nashville. I mean, Nashville was nothing like it is now. It was kind of a big little town. And anyway, Printer's Alley was where the action was at night. And that's where she was. And she was playing with folks like Boots Randolph and legendary guitarist Hank Garland. And Chet Atkins, who was, of course, a major artist in his own right, was also a promising A&R man for RCA. And he discovered Beegie playing in a nightclub in Printer's Alley. He told her to come to the studio the next day, and he'd find a place for her on a project he was working on. Floyd Kramer was already booked for the session. So Chet had her play a train whistle. And that was the start of a relationship. Anyway, Chet continued to hire her for years for various studio projects, which included folks like Perry Como and Henry Mancini. Her reputation was spreading. She was in the house band for like I said, the Ralph Emery Show and the Noon Show. She was on the weekly Johnny Cash show with the Bill Walker Orchestra. Her star was rising. She continued to develop long-term musical relationships and friendships with artists that carried on through her whole career. And I'm sorry, tonight, George Tidwell could not be here. In fact, he was supposed to be making this speech, but he would be able to give a more complete anthology of some of VG's earlier musical activities in Nashville. But as I mentioned, also she and her husband Billy had for several years had a small jingle company back when you could still make money making jingles. And VG and I did several album projects together, produced by our good friends Greg Howard and Jack Jazarel. And during this period, when VG's album sales started to really climb, she was able to start booking out-of-town gigs with her trio. And she liked to tell stories, and one she liked to tell when I was around was about a lady in St. Louis, I think. The trio was playing a private party or something. Roger would know, but that's unimportant. The important thing is she was there signing albums and after the gig, and this woman came up and she told BG how much she loved her music and how she had almost all of her albums. But she had gotten this one album that she didn't like as nearly as well because it had saxophone on it. And BG said, well, I'm sorry to hear that. I just said, so what album was that? And VG told her, the album was Sinatra on sax. So anyway, she saw the humor in people and in life and everywhere. And I miss her very much.